Senator James Lankford is about to release his 5th annual Federal Fumbles report. It lays out ways that the government, quote, dropped the ball, revealing what he calls wasteful government spending. Senator Lankford joins us live this morning to talk about that and some other important issues going on in Washington. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning. Good to see you.
We asked a lot of people on social media this morning what they want to talk to you about or what they think we should ask you. And an overwhelming number of people said they want to talk about the impeachment inquiry.
I'm shocked by that.
Yeah, no surprise to you. You know, this all hinges, or rather focuses, on that phone call with the Ukrainian president that President Trump made a few months back. So, impeachment inquiry here, you're getting a lot of questions about this. How do you handle the volume of the questions that you have to take in your office?
We try to answer as many as we can. Unfortunately, we can't answer a lot right now because we don't know a lot. If you went back to January of this year, there were about 100 of my Democratic colleagues that wanted to be able to impeach the president over Russia. Russia investigation comes to a close. There was no impeachment at the end of it. Then it started rising again over this call with the Ukrainian President Zelensky. And now there's 200 plus that want to be able to go through the impeachment process over that issue. What we have right now is we have the phone call transcript that was released immediately by the White House. We have the whistleblower report, which was a kind of a second or third hand, we don't know from there, about the phone call. But the phone call is really the important piece at this point. And they're in the process of interviewing people behind closed doors about the phone call. But the hard part is we have the phone call right now, so I don't know what they're really trying to be able to gather information about, and we don't have anything public. So at this point, we're trying to tell people who they're meeting with, what they're doing, but we don't have any other information as well. It's only in that certain committee in the House that they have the information.
Now, you have said that you don't believe there was any quid pro quo in that conversation with the president.
It doesn't look like it.
I want to bring up a report here from the Washington Post from a couple of days ago that says that a growing number of GOP senators are considering acknowledging that there was some quid pro quo in that phone call. Are you hearing anything amongst your Republican colleagues in the Senate about that being true?
So what's interesting is I saw that Washington Post story as well, and I kind of smiled and I thought, I don't know who those senators are, because I meet with those folks every single week, multiple times a week, but I've not heard that dialogue from anyone before. The question is did the president say we won't do aid for Ukraine unless they do this investigation? I was in Ukraine in May of this last year, right after the presidential election there, meeting with Ukrainian officials, meeting with their military leaders. There were real problems that were there. There was a reason that we didn't do increased aid or did a hold on aid. We didn't know who the new president was. No one had any idea what his policies were. The first person that he hired was a lawyer for a Ukrainian oligarch. Our State Department stepped back immediately and said, wait, we've got to figure out what's going on here. There has been corruption in the past in Ukraine. We didn't know if this administration was going to take it away from corruption or towards, but the initial hires for the new president didn't look right. And so through May, June, July, there were a lot of questions about who this president was going to be, President Zelensky of Ukraine. So it was entirely reasonable to be able to pause till we figured out the direction that they were going to go before we sent millions of dollars of aid there. Now, there's a statement now from some saying, well, the reason for the pause was just about this issue with Hunter Biden and whether Ukraine was going to do an investigation of Hunter Biden getting thousands of dollars in his job while his dad was vice president. I don't see anything there. I know the accusation can be made, but if you were on the ground in Ukraine, you could really see there were lots of other questions and issues.
Real quick, I want to show a tweet from the president about that phone call and about this Washington Post report that I mentioned just a moment ago. He says false stories are being reported, that a few Republican senators are saying that the president may have done a quid pro quo, but it doesn't matter. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not an impeachable event. Perhaps so, but read the transcript. There is no quid pro quo. So if it is found that there's quid pro quo in this conversation, do you believe that it is an impeachable offense?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into the hypotheticals on that because the funny thing is I don't see any quid pro quo in this. The initial statements that are coming out, some of my Democratic colleagues were immediately releasing things saying this person said they thought it was quid pro quo, but the people that talked to the president said the president said specifically, no, we're not trading off foreign aid for this, that the president made it clear at that time in July that was not what that conversation was about, even at the very beginning. But the hard part is we don't have a lot of other evidence of that. I mean, it's just like this person perceived it was quid pro quo, so it had to be. Not what the president actually stated when he said at the very beginning, even before all this broke, that there was no quid pro quo in between.
Well, Americans are watching closely. Do you pay attention at all to the polling that comes out on what Americans think about all this and whether or not they think the president should be in office right now?
So that actually doesn't matter as much as you would think it would. I know that makes for interesting news as you go through the dialogue to say where are Americans trending on this. My job is to be able to look at the facts as this comes to the Senate in the days ahead, and I think the House will impeach the president. They've been pretty focused on this for months to find a way to be able to do that. Once it comes over to the Senate, we'll be in trial mode at that point, and we'll actually be able to go through all of the evidence and to be able to see it firsthand. At this point, literally all I have are news reports on it, and what everyone else is getting, like to be able to see the facts.
All right. Lankford, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Federal Fumbles comes out the day after Thanksgiving.
It does. It comes out right after Thanksgiving. Actually, not the Friday after, but the week after Thanksgiving. It will release it out, and it'll just give areas of inefficiency we've seen this past year and ways to fix it. That's always our commitment, is not just saying there's a problem, but saying here's actually a solution for it.
All right. Thanks again for your time, Senator.
Thank you.